I've played my fair share of horror games, and I like to think that at this point it takes plenty for me to be scared. But I can confidently say, the Mortuary Assistant is legitimately one of the scariest games I've ever played in some time. Is it a spotless gameplay experience? No. Can it occasionally feel held back due to issues with controls, visuals, and the like? Definitely. But is it going to scare the absolute ever-loving crap out of you? You know, it's more than just a little likely that it will. In The Mortuary Assistant, you play as Rebecca, a young woman who's been hired as an assistant at the Riverfields Mortuary, a creepy mortuary that is the subject of some rumors, though not enough to deter Rebecca from pursuing her professional goals. But what starts off as a seemingly ordinary job turns into something much more sinister when her boss locks her in the mortuary at night, telling her that a demonic entity is haunting the facility and has attached itself to Rebecca. The only way out now is to go about her job, figuring out what kind of demon is haunting her and try to get rid of it before it fully possesses her.
All right, here we go.
It's a straightforward premise that still manages to have enough layers to it to remain interesting in several ways. From a narrative perspective, the Mortuary Assistant's immediate narrative ropes in multiple other threads to keep things interesting, from the shady history of the mortuary itself to Rebecca's traumatic past and how it's informing the horrors that she's now experiencing, to the constant tension brought about by the impending threat of the demonic presence itself. The game does a solid job of feeding bits and pieces of new information to you and piecing them together to gain a deeper insight into Rebecca's past. The mortuary's backstory remains consistently engaging. It's not the story, however, that serves as the star of the show here. No, what makes the Mortuary Assistant worth your time is just how ridiculously scary it can be, and in more ways than one. It starts off with subtle things such as creepy whispers or windows and doors banging shut or shadowy figures that are briefly visible in the corner of your eyes. But as the game progresses, things quickly become increasingly sinister and downright evil. Horrifyingly animated monstrosities can pop up anywhere in the environments. You can come across creepy writing in various places. Corpses can just get up and start shambling away. The Mortuary Assistant has a healthy roster of different kinds of scares at its disposal, several of which are new ones that have been added with this Definitive Edition re-release. And not only are the overwhelmingly majority of them legitimately petrifying, the game also does an excellent job of rarely letting you feel comfortable about whether or not you're ready for what nightmares you may face next. Admittedly, some of the scares do repeat sometimes, which means they end up losing their impact, especially when they're more deeply tied to the story. Given the fact that this is a game that encourages multiple replays, that repetition can potentially be an issue. But the Mortuary Assistant isn't just a straightforward walking horror sim. What sets it apart from your regular indie horror hit is its core gameplay structure. You are, of course, working at a mortuary in this game, which means you'll be spending plenty of time getting bodies out of cold storage and embalming them, which, as you might imagine, is inherently disturbing in and of itself, especially given how actively involved you are in every step of the process. And while you're doing that, you're also tasked with not only figuring out what kind of demon you're being hunted by, where the game feels somewhat similar to multiplayer indie horror sensation Phasmophobia. Every part of both of these critical processes is also highly technical. Embalming a body is a multi-step process that has you moving throughout the facility as you work with different kinds of equipment and items, from identifying the physical marks on a body and draining blood out of it to sewing their jaws shut and more. just as involved and technical is the process of investigating and identifying the demon that is haunting you, and ensuring that you're not getting any steps wrong in everything you do is always critical. The involved nature of Rebecca's work, the attention that you're required to pay as you attempt to discover what demon is haunting you, and the game's incredible knack for consistently ramping up scares all combine together to make for some great gameplay tension. Every step of the way, the Mortuary Assistant is trying to get you to slip up under its terrifying pressure. That's not to say that the gameplay is devoid of any and all issues, however, chief among them being the controls. I never played this game on PC, but I'm assuming it would have felt much better to control with a mouse and keyboard. With the controller, simple things such as moving and looking around felt clunky and frequently inaccurate, and everything from picking up using objects, which you'll be doing a lot of, to interacting with things in the environment can feel a bit clunky. Just as problematic is the general UI and the menus, which struggle with issues ranging from its readability to occasionally unresponsive inputs. The lack of polish rears its head in audio and visual sides of things as well. The Mortuary Assistant is a decent-looking game, especially for a low-budget indie title, but it does suffer from several noticeable technical issues, from muddy textures and frequently choppy animations to audio glitches and more. The game's strengths in other areas admittedly make it easier to overlook such issues. But there's no denying that they can drag the experience down a little bit. Two years ago, the Mortuary Assistant released on PC, and though it wasn't an overnight sensation by any means, it did catch the attention of a fair few people, but hopefully it'll see a much wider success with its console release. The game is definitely let down by its technical issues, and the moment-to-moment gameplay can feel a bit clunky because of the controls, but at its core, the Mortuary Assistant is a really good horror game. If you're looking for a game that can legitimately terrify you while also delivering genuinely engaging gameplay, even with its aforementioned issues, this one is well worth looking into. Hey, did you know that we at Gaming Bolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.